suddenly slammed into the ground with great force, creating a massive impact. As dust and debris scatter, a powerful, muscular enemy drops down to attack. The moment he lands, chaos breaks out, fighters rush in, weapons drawn, trying to hold their ground. In the middle of the clash, a system message appears, announcing the low-level dungeon and dangerous bubble gum zone. The monster charges in and slams its attack toward him, nearly overwhelming him. Another fighter shouts for him not to block the attack head-on but to redirect it from the side. Following the instruction, the team quickly coordinates. The leader then commands everyone to start dealing damage, and the group launches their assault together, striking the monster from multiple angles. The team keeps attacking the monster, landing a series of hits. Suddenly, the creature erupts with glowing red energy and its eyes flare up. It enters a berserk state. One of the fighters shouts that the monster has gone berserk, and another quickly orders the healer to put a barrier around the frontline fighters. The healer responds immediately with "on it," and activates a glowing defensive spell to protect everyone. A teammate shouts at Hanjun, calling him the mana shuttle and demanding to know why his mana is low. He snaps to attention and quickly responds, "Yes." His status window appears, and he begins rapidly gathering and channeling mana. Blue energy surges around him as he concentrates. Seeing this, another teammate shouts excitedly that with this much mana, they might even be able to take down the King Golem. The enraged monster charges forward, but one of the fighters unleashes a powerful golden attack, shouting, "Take this." The blast strikes the monster head-on, engulfing it in a huge pillar of light and forcing out a roar as it's overwhelmed. Once the attack ends and the battle calms, he sits down exhausted, letting out a relieved "phew." After the battle, the leader tells him that his contribution today was low and asks him to help with dismantling. He agrees quietly. Nearby, the other hunters talk about him, saying he's a freeloader who got lucky because he can produce mana. They point out that although he has no combat skills, he can generate infinite mana, which surprises one of them, calling it an amazing ability on its own. But another explains that unless a monster requires huge amounts of mana to fight, the ability is basically useless. That's why, even after 3 years as a hunter, he's still only level 30. People's mocking voices echo in his mind, saying that no matter how hard he tries, he'll never be more than a regular, powerless person. But he refuses to give up. He tells himself that he won't quit, no matter how much they ridicule him. Later, at the Daehun Guild, he is shocked when someone informs him of a decision. He shouts in disbelief, asking what's going on, then reacts angrily when told that he, a hunter, is being reassigned to work in the production department. The guild's manager explains that although he hasn't done anything wrong, there's simply no more work suited for someone with his abilities. The hunter insists that he's trying his best and asks for a bit more time, saying he even saved mana for the team today. But the manager tells him that his skills and mana generation ability aren't enough for combat, and that nothing will change for him at level 30. Hearing this, he realizes the guild has already decided his fate. The manager hints that moving him to production is the best decision and even suggests it's for his safety. With tension rising, the hunter asks a heavy question: if he refuses, will he be kicked out of the guild? He's frustrated, thinking that the guild can't just kick him out after 3 years of work, but despite that, he ends up unemployed overnight. Sitting on a park bench, he reflects on how useless his infinite mana generation is without combat skills. He then remembers the one strange ability he has, something he acquired before becoming a hunter. When he picks up a drink can, a system-like prompt appears asking, "Would you like to copy the item?" As he taps it, the ability activates, causing light to surge as the can begins to duplicate. He explains how his copy skill works. He can duplicate any object he touches by selecting it as a target. On the surface, it seems like an incredible ability, but there's one fatal flaw: the copied item disappears the moment it leaves his hand, like a mirage. Because of that, money copies, rare items, and anything meant for resale are all completely useless. However, he notes one important exception: weapons. When he copies a weapon that's registered to him, it stays intact and doesn't vanish, allowing him to use duplicated weapons freely in combat. Even his supposed infinite mana generation turns out to only function when he's the one using the gear he duplicated. Hanjun he explains that he tried copying skills, but it only ever works on monster materials, not abilities. While scrolling through his phone, he looks at a legendary weapon, Kalnisa Dragon's Longsword, a rare item with extremely low drop rates. What makes this sword special is that anyone who wields it instantly gains the stats of a level 200 hunter, making it one of the strongest weapons in existence. But there's one major problem: it requires level 200 to equip, which is why even elite hunters struggle to use it. He admits that this sword is far harder to obtain than anything else, and it's the main reason he wants to get his hands on it. Hanjun he explains that every year, the guilds hold a massive event called the Ranking Games, a competition where hunters fight for placement. The lower-ranked hunters, from level 30 to 39, compete first, and the rewards depend on how many points they earn. He knows he won't win against others in his bracket, but the reward he wants doesn't require victory, just reaching level 31. If he levels up once, he'll finally qualify to get the item he wants. Determined, he heads into a dungeon to grind one more level. Inside, a chaotic battle unfolds as hunters fight off hordes of monsters. A notification pops up, showing the dungeon as Goblin's Underground Nest. A teammate asks him for more mana supply, and he immediately responds with yes, channeling mana into the fighter. The powered-up hunter unleashes a massive fiery explosion, shouting to roast the spiders. The blast wipes out waves of monsters. Watching the others fight, he reflects bitterly that other hunters can climb levels so easily, while for him, leveling up is incredibly difficult. As he gathers mana, another hunter approaches and taunts him, asking if he really thinks leveling up like this will work. The hunter claims he needs to prepare something before the boss fight and tries to leave with some mana. He promises he won't cheat him and even gives his name, Park Hyung, calling himself a bandwidth engineer. But he already knows this guy's reputation. He recognizes Park Hyung as someone infamous for tricking new hunters with sweet talk and then running off. He braces himself, knowing exactly what type of person he's dealing with. The dungeon floor trembles as they approach the boss's room, and one of the hunters warns everyone to stay alert. Another shouts for the team to stop. This is the giant spider's chamber. A massive purple spider emerges, and an alert window identifies it as the giant spider, level 35. He realizes that if they defeat a monster this strong, the EXP will be huge, and this might be his chance to finally level up. But before he can act, someone behind him reminds him that if he wants the kill, he needs to hurry. The others won't wait for him once the fight starts. A hunter warns him that lower-rank hunters must stay careful or they'll get caught in the fight. Another explains that only strong fighters can enter the boss room, anyone weaker will just become a burden. But then someone yells for Park Ki-young, urging him to hurry up and join the battle because they don't have time. Ki-young rushes forward, but the moment he steps onto a web-covered section of the floor, he suddenly realizes something is wrong, just before the giant spider's trap begins to spring. The giant spider awakens with a roar, lunging toward the hunters. Someone shouts angrily that the mage woke up the spider, causing the fight to start prematurely. Another hunter yells for everyone to get away before they die. The team quickly begins retreating while someone warns them to watch out for the webs and eggs as they prepare to deal with the giant spider's sudden attack. The team spreads out and attacks, trying to draw the giant spider's attention. One hunter nearly gets hit by the spider's legs and shouts in surprise. Meanwhile, he realizes this is the perfect chance. If he can land the finishing blow, he might finally level up. But the spider suddenly shifts tactics. A hunter shouts in alarm as the monster begins shooting webs everywhere, ordering everyone to take cover behind the pillars. A mage unleashes a massive fire spell, shouting that this is why the party needed the first spiders defeated beforehand. He tells everyone to dodge as he aims the attack at the giant spider. The giant spider responds by rapidly firing webs, blocking off the attack path. The fireball crashes into the tangled webs instead of the spider, getting completely stopped. Someone shouts in frustration that the spell was neutralized by the spider's webs, calling the situation humiliating. The mage gets angry and insists he'll just keep firing the spell again and again. Someone tries to stop him, but he ignores them and blasts multiple fireballs at the spider's webs. Another hunter panics and yells that he might break the spider eggs too. But Hanjun steps forward, realizing what's about to happen, and says with dread, "It's already too late." The fireballs strike the spider's webs repeatedly, causing sparks and violent reactions. A hunter panics and yells for everyone to run because the spider is about to go berserk. Before anyone can react, a massive explosion shakes the chamber. Hanjun is urged by someone to get behind the pillars. If the spider goes berserk, being exposed will make everything worse. But before he can move, the giant spider lets out a deafening scream as it enters its berserk state. The berserk giant spider fires countless webs in every direction as its eyes glow violently. Hunters scramble to avoid the attack, cursing in panic. One of them shouts in frustration because even his strong fireballs couldn't penetrate the spider's reinforced webs. As the chaos spreads, the spider slams its body around the chamber, overwhelming the hunters while they shout and struggle to keep up with its ferocity. One of the hunters becomes trapped by the spider's webs and panics, screaming for it to go away. But the berserk spider lunges at him, and his screams are cut short as he's killed. Hanjun watches in shock, frozen for a moment as the situation spirals out of control. Wrapped in webs himself and struggling to breathe, he curses under his breath, realizing how dire everything has become. The giant spider closes in rapidly, ready to strike again as Hanjun is left in a desperate, terrifying position. As the berserk spider crawls toward him, Hanjun's breathing grows frantic. He bitterly laughs at himself. He only came here to level up once, but now he's about to die for that single level. The giant spider screeches and lunges at him. In a desperate moment, Hanjun struggles violently against the webs, fighting with everything he has as terror fills his eyes. As death closes in, Hanjun curses in despair. Suddenly, a system notification appears in the darkness with a familiar sound. Do you want to paste the copied target? Ctrl+V, signaling that his copy ability has activated at the critical moment. A surge of blue light erupts around Hanjun as his copy-paste ability activates. His body becomes enveloped in glowing data-like particles, and he begins materializing something powerful, his stance steadying as the pasted object or power takes form beneath him. Hanjun explains that when he copies most objects, they disappear once pasted, but a copied version of himself does not. That's why he always creates a backup copy of himself whenever he enters a dungeon, as a safety measure. It functions like a game mechanic. If he dies, the copied version automatically gets pasted back to life. When the copy disappears, the real Hanjun returns. Realizing he survived thanks to this ability, Hanjun steadies himself. He knows he can't rely on it too often, but now that he's back, he sees an opportunity. The giant spider still hasn't noticed him. The berserk giant spider lunges down toward Hanjun again, forcing him to dive out of the way as he shouts in panic. Realizing how close he just came to dying a second time, he exclaims in shock, "Holy shit." At that moment, the system reappears with another prompt. Paste the copied target? Ctrl+V. Signaling that Hanjun has another chance to use his copying ability in this life-or-death moment. Hanjun gasps for breath as the giant spider lands heavily nearby, closing in on him again. Panting in fear, he realizes that no matter how many times he copies and pastes himself, he still can't escape this situation. Something is preventing him from getting away. Just as this thought hits him, Hanjun suddenly notices something startling, his expression tightening in shock. Hanjun suddenly hears a faint voice begging, give it to me." He turns and sees Park Kyung, still alive but completely wrapped in spider silk and barely conscious. Shocked, Hanjun blurts out, "Park Kyung? You're alive?" But after a moment of hesitation, Hanjun steels himself. With the giant spider still nearby and danger closing in, he quietly apologizes, saying he has no choice, and decides to use this unexpected moment to seize an opportunity. The giant spider charges forward again as Park Kyung, wrapped in silk and helpless, weakly pleads, "Save me." Hanjun grimaces in frustration and shouts, "Damn it." Even though Kyung had tricked him earlier, Hanjun can't just abandon someone begging for help. Resolute, he grabs his weapon and rushes toward the spider, declaring that he won't be the kind of hunter who leaves someone from his group to die. Hanjun charges at the giant spider, striking its leg to force it off course. The attack works, the spider's trajectory shifts, and Park Kyung is saved from a direct hit. As Hanjun hits the ground from the impact, a sudden notification appears, "Level up." Startled, Hanjun reacts with wide-eyed shock, realizing he has finally gained the level he'd been desperately fighting for. Hanjun is stunned that he leveled up right in the middle of the battle, wondering how it even happened. Then he realizes, his earlier move must have counted as an attack, giving him the missing EXP he needed. Before he can celebrate, the berserk giant spider lunges at him again, forcing him to scream and retreat. As the system prompt Ctrl+V appears once more, Hanjun quickly thinks. Now that he's leveled up, he can finally paste the Kalnisa dragon's longsword, the weapon he's been aiming for all this time. The system begins pasting the copied content, and Hanjun braces himself, breathing hard. As the process completes, he steels his resolve and rises to his feet. Unable to run or escape anymore, Hanjun declares with determination. "Good. If I can't escape, I'll kill you even if it takes 100 deaths." He prepares to face the giant spider head-on, fully committed to fighting until the end. Hanjun charges toward the berserk giant spider, determined and fearless. He declares that even making a tiny scratch is enough, because he has one crucial advantage. His copy-paste ability. Knowing he can revive through his copied versions, he challenges the monster head-on, shouting that it's now a race against time between him and the fat spider bastard. 3 days later, the aftermath of the brutal battle is revealed. Hanjun narrates that he has died over 50 times across 3 relentless days and nights. Every weapon his party members had has long since broken. Yet through all those repeated deaths and non-stop combat, Hanjun declares that he has achieved tremendous growth. As the battle drags on, Hanjun notes that while he is growing stronger through repeated deaths, the giant spider is growing weaker and more battered. Blow after blow has taken its toll. Fortunately for Hanjun, the spider has no healing abilities, meaning every bit of accumulated damage stays. With the creature screaming in rage, Hanjun continues the fight, now holding the advantage. The giant spider drops multiple heavy blobs of silk from above, forcing Hanjun to dodge rapidly. Despite his evasive moves, some of the silk manages to trap him during earlier attempts. As he lands, Hanjun complains in frustration, noting that he's already died 4 times just because of the spider's sticky silk attacks. Determined, he faces the spider again as it prepares another massive strike, ready to continue the relentless fight. Hanjun swiftly dodges another attack from the giant spider, moving with sharpened instincts gained through countless deaths. He rushes forward, closing the distance and leaping high into the air. With full determination and precise timing, Hanjun raises his weapon overhead, aiming to strike directly at the monster's weak point. Hanjun strikes at the giant spider with everything he has, shouting for it to just die already. But in the middle of his attack, his weapon suddenly breaks apart. Frustrated, Hanjun groans that the weapon was so cheap he didn't even get a chance to copy and paste it before it shattered, leaving him momentarily defenseless right in front of the monster. Hanjun is knocked back by the furious giant spider as it screeches and charges at him. Frustrated and desperate, he grits his teeth and curses, "Damn it," pushing himself back into the fight. With no weapon left, he aims directly at the spider's vulnerable spot and manages to strike its eye, causing the creature to shriek in shock and pain. The giant spider convulses violently as purple energy bursts from its body. Its pained screams grow louder while cracks spread across its massive frame. Finally, with a deafening explosion, the spider's body shatters apart, scattering pieces across the battlefield. The creature's remains crumble and fall still, signaling its long, brutal fight with Hanjun has finally come to an end. Hanjun laughs triumphantly over the shattered remains of the giant spider, shouting that he finally took it down. Mocking the dead monster, he tells it not to feel bitter about being defeated by a low-level player. Immediately afterward, multiple level-up notifications flood the screen one after another. Finally, a system message appears. Great Spider Subjugation Reward item has been given. Exhausted but victorious, Hanjun carries the unconscious Park Kyung on his back. He urges Kyung to stay awake, joking that he still needs to drink Hanjun's booze and that now he can even treat him to top-shelf whiskey. But as they move, something suddenly shifts behind them. Hanjun reacts with a startled, huh, sensing that something unexpected is happening. As Hanjun stumbles forward carrying Kyung, the ground shakes and he falls. A chilling sound echoes through the cavern, the newborn spiders have hatched. A system alert confirms it. The giant spider's offspring just hatched from the egg. Level 30. Hanjun curses, realizing he doesn't even have a sword left. He tells himself he'll survive somehow, but if Kyung dies here, everything will be over. Despite his exhaustion, Hanjun prepares to face the swarm to protect him. One of the newly hatched spiders lunges at Hanjun with a shriek. Hanjun narrowly dodges the attack, rolling away just in time. But before the spider can strike again, a powerful blue slash cuts through it. Someone has intervened, killing the creature instantly. More spider offspring rush forward, screeching as they swarm. Just as they leap to attack, a blinding flash of blue energy slices through the air. A powerful figure arrives and effortlessly cuts down multiple spiders at once, stopping the swarm before they can reach Hanjun. A powerful ally unleashes a massive spell, shouting, "Hellfire." A colossal wave of blue flames floods the entire area, incinerating the newly hatched spiders in an instant. Hanjun can only watch as the overwhelming attack engulfs the battlefield, wiping out the threat in one decisive strike. Hanjun recognizes the devastating spell that was just cast, Hellfire, the highest level fire magic. He notes that only a handful of magic-type hunters in the world can use such a spell without chanting. According to his memory, in all of South Korea, there is only one person capable of doing that, a sword magician who wields a staff sword called Witchblade. She is ranked 5th among all South Korean hunters, confirming to Hanjun exactly who has appeared. Hanjun and his injured companion are approached by Han Jaeyang, a high-ranking sword magician and team leader from the Hunter Association. She asks if they are the only survivors, and Hanjun confirms that they are. As she surveys the scene filled with corpses and shattered remains, Jaeyang realizes what must have happened. The baby spider hatched while in a berserk state, strong enough to wipe out even high-level players, explaining the devastation and the lack of other survivors. Han Jaeyang looks closely at Hanjun and is shocked that he managed to survive inside such a dangerous boss room. Not only did he come out alive, but he also protected and saved his comrade. She notes that Hanjun appears to be a low-level hunter, making the situation even more unbelievable. Confused and curious, she asks what exactly happened for someone of his rank to survive where so many stronger hunters died. After being taken to the Korean Hunter Association for questioning, Hanjun expresses his gratitude. He thanks Hunter Kang Ji-young for arriving in time to save them, and also acknowledges the dungeon entrance supervisor who reported the incident. Kang Ji-young responds calmly, saying that what she did was simply part of the Hunter Association's duties, though she inwardly notes that he survived unusually well for someone of his level. Hanjun finishes submitting the Great King Spider items and the written report. Kang Ji-young tells him he can go, treating the case as routine. Surprised, Hanjun asks if the incident, where a high-level party was wiped out and the dungeon bus collapsed, is really considered resolved. Kang Ji-young calmly explains that dungeon deaths happen frequently, even with entry forms that include pre-signed death reports. To the association, this situation is nothing unusual, even if it felt enormous to Han-jun. Han-jun listens as Kang Ji-young explains the reality of dungeon buses. The association largely ignores low-level hunters who pay to enter high-level dungeons, because the desire to grow stronger is natural for hunters. Even though dungeon busing is illegal, it still functions as a form of training. After answering his questions, she asks if Han-jun has any more. Han-jun smiles, saying that her honesty is so blunt and straightforward that it's actually refreshing to hear. As Han-jun prepares to leave, Kang Ji-young informs him that the reward from the King Spider's item distribution will be deposited soon. Han-jun immediately refuses to take it and asks her to give all of it to his junior instead. As Kang Ji-young doubts his explanation, she thinks to herself that it's impossible for a low-level hunter to survive a high-level dungeon purely by luck, realizing that Hunter Seo Han-jun is definitely hiding something. Meanwhile, Han-jun walks down the hallway, smiling to himself. He celebrates his success and confidently commands, "Open inventory." Han-jun opens his inventory and sees multiple bundles of giant spider silk, delighted that defeating the giant spider turned out to be extremely profitable. A flashback shows the moment he received the giant spider's silk plus, a special reward item from the giant spider subjugation. The enhanced silk grants strong adhesive abilities for a limited time and requires user level 40, making it a highly valuable item for Han-jun's future growth. Han-jun inspects the giant spider's silk plus and complains that, despite its fancy name, it seems like nothing more than sticky thread, just another, useless, item after all the times he's died. He decides he'll probably use it later while grinding monsters in the dungeon and prepares to copy it with his copy-paste ability. After copying the item, he wonders how he's supposed to use it, but the moment he examines it, the silk suddenly vanishes in a burst of light. Shocked, Han-jun looks around and realizes the item disappeared without a trace. Han-jun is shocked when the system reveals that the giant spider's silk plus has been absorbed into his existing skill, causing Ctrl plus V to grow in attributes. He realizes that copy-paste can actually evolve through item absorption. Although Ctrl plus C is still blocked from upgrading, Ctrl plus V now has new skill options unlocked. Han-jun excitedly concludes that absorbing compatible items may allow his skills to grow further. Overjoyed by this discovery, he eagerly checks what new options have appeared. Han-jun activates his newly unlocked skill options and reads the system notifications. The skill Ctrl plus V now offers 3 abilities. He can paste a copied object and keep it as long as he wants. He can choose the duration for which the pasted object remains. He can even unlock the giant spider's thread ability. Realizing how powerful these new options are, Han-jun gets excited. To test it, he pastes the giant spider's cocoon and sets it to remain for 1 minute, watching as the copied object materializes before him. Han-jun discovers that the copied cocoon doesn't disappear even when he lets go of it, realizing how valuable this new clone ability is. As the copied object dissolves into energy and vanishes after the set duration, Han-jun's eyes light up with excitement. He's thrilled by how powerful and useful this skill can become. Han-jun realizes the copied cocoon lasts exactly 1 minute, so he begins testing the ability further. Excited, he rapidly creates multiple copies, first setting them to last 30 minutes, then pushing the limits to 100 years, and even 1,000 years. As he experiments, it becomes clear that his copy-paste skill has evolved into something overwhelmingly powerful. Han-jun bursts into triumphant laughter, thrilled by how powerful his copy-paste ability has become. He declares that from now on, he'll rise into wealth and success as a top-tier hunter. With confidence blazing, he sets his next goal, to copy and paste the legendary Collegia Dragon's longsword. 2 hours later, a large transport truck moves steadily across a busy bridge. Inside, 2 hunters discuss their mission. Grunt asks how many times it has happened so far, and Arez replies that it has occurred twice. Their exchange suggests they're monitoring or transporting something dangerous that has shown abnormal behavior multiple times. Inside the truck, the two hunters continue chatting. Grunt explains that although transporting dungeon-related materials is dangerous, it's not illegal, and as long as nothing goes wrong, the pay is great. He jokes that he'd quit if the job became too risky. Arez agrees, noting that as long as the item they're transporting stays stable, everything will be fine. Just then, their device alerts them, a dungeon break has happened nearby, shocking them both as the situation suddenly becomes much more serious. Arez panics, saying that if the barrier collapses, it'll be a total disaster. Her partner complains that's too boring and worries too much, insisting everything will be fine. Meanwhile, in another part of the city, a massive dungeon break barrier suddenly appears in the sky. Two hunters on the ground notice it. One of them yawns, saying dungeon breaks keep happening non-stop. The other comments that even as a high-ranked hunter, dealing with these incidents all day is exhausting. A small slime appears in front of the two hunters. Young newbie picks it up, noting that it's a slime, much cuter than the ones usually found in dungeons. He wonders aloud if it might be a dungeon monster that slipped out. His companion nervously suggests that newbie might be overthinking it, but then suddenly freezes, sensing something alarming approaching. As young newbie examines the small slime, his companion suddenly senses danger and charges forward with his sword drawn. A monstrous creature appears and brutally strikes him down, splattering blood. And the scene shifts to the Korean Hunter Association building. A notification reveals information about Shin Han-jun, confirming his hunter rank and registration details, setting the stage for the next development in the story. Han-jun learns that once a hunter reaches mid-tier levels, monsters stop being simple creatures and start forming intelligent groups, making leveling more difficult. He decides that for now, the smartest thing is to sell the spider parts he collected. Just as he finishes, loud footsteps approach. A group of exhausted hunters rushes past him, urgently asking him to move out of the way. Han-jun is surprised and wonders why low-level hunters are interrupting him and causing such a commotion. Han-jun watches a group of hunters running past him in a panic. He quickly realizes something is wrong and suspects a dungeon break. Nearby hunters explain that a team of 3 hunters, who had only entered the dungeon for quick profit, triggered an abnormal reaction, causing numerous monsters to surge out. Han-jun is shocked to hear that they got caught in a dungeon break, and decides he needs to hurry to the scene to help. The scene then shifts to the Hunters Association rooftop, where the situation is escalating. A group of hunters rushes to the scene after learning that a dungeon break has occurred. They confirm that the break was triggered by the 3 hunters who entered the dungeon earlier and caused an abnormal reaction. Hunter Kang Ji-young arrives and instructs everyone to secure the area and protect civilians while minimizing casualties. She emphasizes that right now, the priority is handling the emergency, and detailed discussions can happen afterward. Han-jun rushes to Hunter Kang Ji-young, insisting that he wants to help with the dungeon break because he saw everyone mobilizing toward. Ji-young questions him at first, but Han-jun argues that in a dangerous situation like this, they should use all available help to protect civilians and minimize damage. Ji-young pauses, considering his words as military aircraft begin approaching the area, signaling the severity of the situation. Hunter Kang Ji-young explains to the assembled hunters that the sudden dungeon break occurring now is abnormal. There were no warning signs, no detected gate instability, and no precursors like monster agitation. Normally, dungeon breaks can be predicted through early signals, but this one happened without any symptoms. She emphasizes that unpredictable dungeon breaks like this can lead to disasters similar to the open dungeon incident from years ago. That is why all hunters, including Han-jun, were urgently mobilized, to prevent another large-scale catastrophe. Han-jun recalls the open dungeon incident from 3 years ago, the worst dungeon break in history. It was an uncontrollable disaster, devastating enough to be compared to a massive natural catastrophe. The scene flashes to the chaos of that time, showing countless monsters pouring out and overwhelming the city, highlighting how disastrous an unpredictable dungeon break can become. Han-jun explains that when monsters inside a dungeon aren't cleared regularly, the dungeon becomes oversaturated and eventually collapses, leading to a catastrophic dungeon break. During one such disaster, the city was overrun by monsters, and Hanjun lost his parents in the chaos. He himself barely survived, only to awaken afterward with the strange ability he now possesses. He describes it not as a blessing, but as a curse he was forced to endure, obtained in the aftermath of that tragic event. Hanjun reflects on the tragic dungeon break that happened 20 years ago, acknowledging that humanity still doesn't fully understand how dungeon collapses occur. He recalls the day he awakened his ability, born from losing everything, especially his parents. That moment became a turning point in his life. Now, Hanjun has made a firm decision. He will grow stronger, uncover the truth behind the dungeon disasters, and find a way to prevent such tragedies from ever happening again. At Hanun Bridge, chaos erupts as a vehicle suddenly flies off the road and crashes violently, triggering panic among civilians. As monsters begin spilling out and attacking people, a nearby hunter rushes forward, realizing the situation has escalated into a full-blown emergency. He acknowledges that they didn't expect the dungeon break to reach this area so quickly, meaning the danger is spreading faster than anticipated. A monster chases young newbie down the road, roaring as it prepares to attack. That newbie desperately tries to evade it, but the creature closes in fast. Just as the monster is about to strike, another hunter suddenly intervenes and kills it in one blow. He's startled but relieved, turns around and sincerely thanks the hunter for saving him. After saving, the armored hunter tells him to stay close if he wants to survive. Young hunter agrees, thinking to himself that sticking with a pro will keep him safe. As they move together, the hunter quickly kills another monster and warns him not to wander off. That newbie realizes the hunter is reliable and decides to follow his lead. While they regroup, a voice reports that communication devices are down, and no reinforcements or reports are getting through. The situation is worsening. The hunter tells him they must head deeper inside the affected area because the front line has collapsed and monsters are flooding out. He hesitates but agrees to follow when the hunter says civilians need saving on the other side. Together they run forward as the hunter shouts, "Let's go!" A massive Bearmon King, a level 100 bear-type monster, suddenly bursts onto the scene, roaring and smashing through the battlefield with overwhelming force. Its impact shakes the ground as it charges forward. A hunter worries whether their team leader will be okay dealing with something that powerful. Another hunter prepares to assist, saying they will provide defensive magic. They quickly activate a protective spell to help their leader hold the front line. Despite their efforts, the Bearmon King's rampage causes huge destruction, shaking the bridge and the surrounding area as the battle intensifies. The hunters are shocked as they realize that even the strongest among them wouldn't be able to handle the massive threat approaching. One of them exclaims in disbelief, wondering what the huge incoming object is. As it draws closer, they recognize it, and the team members shout in alarm, calling out to their team leader in panic. The leader looks tense and alert, clearly sensing the danger as something massive and fast approaches from the sky. The hunters suddenly recognize the terrifying enemy approaching. It's Kaishia, the boss monster of the Rainbow Bridge dungeon. Its massive presence shocks everyone. As the monster descends, one of the hunters realizes what's happening and shouts in alarm. Kang Ji-young quickly orders, "Everyone, prepare for impact." At that moment, Kaishia unleashes a powerful, blazing attack, roaring fiercely as it strikes with overwhelming force. Kaishia launches a devastating attack from above, crashing down with overwhelming force and destroying everything in its path. As the dust and shockwaves spread, Hanjun watches in alarm. He realizes, the boss, Kaishia, it's way stronger than what I saw in the dungeon. Panicked and unsure how to defend himself, he desperately wonders, will the longsword be safer? The scene shows Hanjun shocked by the monster's power and scrambling to decide how to survive the incoming threat. The gigantic dragon-like boss unleashes a terrifying roar as golden lightning tears through the sky. Surrounded by swirling purple and black energy, the monster charges up a powerful attack. Its mouth opens wide, gathering explosive flames before firing a massive blast forward. The scene shows the boss monster going completely berserk, unleashing destructive power with no restraint, signaling that the battle is about to escalate even further. The dragon boss unleashes a massive golden breath attack, destroying everything in its path and causing a huge explosion. The battlefield is thrown into chaos as the impact shakes the surroundings. After the blast, the association issues urgent instructions. All hunters are ordered to prioritize rescuing civilians and ensuring their safety. From this point on, the association will handle the offensive operations against the monster. The scene shifts to an elite hunter charging forward, preparing to engage the colossal threat while others focus on evacuation. The association team responds promptly to orders and begins their mission. As they rush out, the team leader briefly wonders about Hunter Seo Han-jun, but quickly decides he'll be fine, believing someone like him wouldn't die in a situation like this. Meanwhile, a powerful hunter Kang Ji-young unleashes an overwhelming blue flame ability, gathering intense energy. With a shout of "Hellfire," she fires a massive, blazing attack toward the enemy, illuminating the battlefield with destructive power. As the Collegia dragon roars and clashes with the hunter's attacks, Han-jun watches from behind, thinking it's too dangerous to approach right now. Instead, he decides to release the giant spider's thread, using it to secure himself and stay safe while observing the battle. But he has only one goal in mind. Small Blue Diamond copying the Collegia dragon's longsword. He declares that obtaining and duplicating that legendary weapon is his top priority, no matter the chaos around him. The mysterious squad is moving swiftly through the battlefield. One member reports to the captain that monsters are getting stronger, far beyond what they expected. The captain realizes the situation is escalating rapidly. Han-jun and the other squad must not be left alone, or they'll be in danger. Capturing the final boss of the dungeon is the fastest way to end this dungeon break. All forces must gather and focus on the Collegia dragon, the dungeon's boss. The captain orders his team to regroup immediately and prepare to advance. Han-jun reaches an area full of corpses and realizes that the dragon must be close, as the air feels heavy and dangerous. The situation becomes critical as the dragon's roar echoes, causing panic. A hunter yells for everyone to run away, but young newbie refuses. He declares he can't run, because if he does, his senior will die. Senior hunter tries to stop him, saying that Young is only a beginner hunter with weak gear and shouldn't risk himself. But he insists, he must save the senior who are still trapped and can't escape on their own. As monsters approach, young newbie realizes the monster is moving toward the city center, putting even more civilians in danger. A senior hunter urgently warns. The monster is beyond their level. If he goes alone, he'll die immediately. But young newbie firmly replies he has no choice and must go anyway. Han-jun decides to confront the danger head-on to save people, even if it means risking his life. A horde of wolf-type monsters begins charging toward the city, creating an overwhelming threat. Young newbie realizes that if even one of them slips past, countless people could die. Despite the danger, he remembers how his senior was injured earlier while protecting him. Determined to repay that debt and protect everyone, he tightens his resolve. Even though he's scared and heavily outnumbered, he decides he must fight, because running away would mean abandoning the people behind him. With that conviction, he prepares himself to take down as many monsters as he can. Young newbie and the injured senior hunter try to escape the battlefield, but the situation quickly becomes overwhelming as the wolf monsters close in. Realizing they're surrounded, he is forced to fight. A wolf jumps at him, and he barely manages to block the attack. Another wolf follows immediately, and he takes multiple hits while desperately defending himself. Despite being outmatched and exhausted, he keeps swinging his sword, refusing to give in as he tries to protect both himself and the injured hunter. He is overwhelmed as the wolves keep attacking him relentlessly. He gets slashed and knocked around, barely holding his ground. One wolf lunges at him from above, and another tackles him to the ground. Just when it looks like he's about to be killed. Not long, Hanjun rushes in and strikes the wolf off of him, saving him at the last second. Hanjun arrives, then asked if he's okay. But he admits he can barely move. However, more wolves suddenly appear, rushing toward them in a massive wave. Faced with the overwhelming threat, Hanjun tells young newbie to run while he stays behind to buy him time. Just as he prepares to flee, he's startled when someone unexpectedly calls out to him from behind. Hanjun realizes he can only copy part of an item or skill at a time, but he decides to test it anyway. As a pack of raging wolf monsters charges toward him, he prepares to use the copied giant spider's sticky thread ability. Curious to see how effective it will be against the wolves, he stands his ground as the horde lunges at him. As the wolves charge toward the young newbie, Hanjun quickly activates his ability. Using Ctrl+V, he pastes multiple copies of the giant spider's sticky thread. Instantly, thick webs erupt across the ground, trapping the wolves mid-attack. The monsters struggle and howl in frustration, completely immobilized by the copied threads. After Hanjun's copied spider threads completely bind the wolves, the monsters collapse and disappear one by one. A notification appears: Hanjun has leveled up multiple times from defeating them. He wonders if his level increased because he was the only one who dealt damage. Meanwhile, the young man is shocked. He realizes the wolves that attacked them were low-level monsters, the kind that shouldn't give this much experience. That means Hanjun must be incredibly strong for his level. The young begins to suspect that Hanjun isn't just an ordinary low-level hunter after all. Hanjun checks on the injured hunter and asks if he's alright. The hunter apologizes, saying he can't move properly because the wound is too deep. The junior desperately shouts that his senior is badly hurt and begs for help. Hanjun steps in calmly and explains that although the injury looks severe, it isn't fatal. He says he has something that can treat it and then takes out a healing potion, surprising the others. Hanjun reassures the two hunters that the potion he gave them is a normal healing potion, so they don't need to worry. The injured hunter is shocked at how effective it is, amazed that the pain is already gone. He expresses deep gratitude, thanking Hanjun sincerely. Hanjun humbly replies that they should just focus on getting to safety. As he starts to walk away, he mentions that he needs to quickly help the association agents nearby who might still be in danger. Hanjun finishes speaking with the rescued hunters, but he asks to be taken somewhere. A massive roar erupts as a huge monster appears and charges, crushing nearby structures. The observing hunters realize the creature has suddenly become more aggressive, and they tense up as the situation escalates. Grunt notices something unexpected happening and narrows his eyes, recognizing that the threat is far from over. A hunter rushes in to engage the approaching monster, determined to stop it. However, she's suddenly confused when shadowy, hooded figures appear behind him. One of the cloaked figures coldly says they should take care of him first, and then launches an attack. The hunter is caught completely off guard as the masked attackers swiftly move in, surrounding him and striking with deadly precision. The hunter curses as he realizes the shadowy enemies are far stronger and more troublesome than expected. He prepares himself, determined to face them head-on despite the danger. Arez urgently calls out Grunt, realizing he's rushing in alone. Before she can reach him, one of the enemies blindsides him with a brutal strike. Blood sprays as he collapses to the ground, leaving his teammates screaming his name in shock and fear. Grunt is shocked to see what happened in his wound. Arez explains that the enemy used poison and absorbed the damage from his attack earlier, meaning it wasn't his own strength but the enemy's skill at work. The masked enemy confirms that the issue isn't the hunter's misunderstanding, it's simply that his strength was never enough to begin with. Realizing this, the she steels herself, deciding that if their enemy can absorb damage, then she must fight in a way that won't let them exploit that ability. She prepares to unleash a powerful skill, despite knowing it may come at personal cost. A masked enemy unleashes a powerful fiery attack, but suddenly the explosion is massive, wiping out many enemies. the aftermath shows that the monsters are still coming. A terrifying, enraged beast charges toward the front line, roaring as the remaining hunters desperately brace themselves for the next wave. A massive bear-type monster rampages through the battlefield, overpowering group and tearing through their defenses. The mysterious group scream in pain and struggle to hold their ground. One member of the shadowy group comments that the situation is dire. If the bear keeps advancing, the entire front line will collapse. The battlefield turns chaotic. The massive bear monster charges forward, forcing the group to brace themselves. Hunter Grunt anxiously wonders if it's their turn to fight next, but Arez reminds him that their responsibility isn't to defeat the monster, it's to prioritize protecting civilians. She acknowledges this, but notes that such logic doesn't always apply to real combat situations. Arez suddenly rushes forward, casting a powerful golden magic spell despite her teammates shouting in shock and telling her to stop. She's struck down hard, crashing to the ground. Even as she struggles, she acknowledges that, just as she expected, she can't stop the rampaging monster no matter what she tries. Arez faces the charging monster head-on and prepares herself for the worst. She apologizes to Grunt, accepting that she can't protect him anymore. But in that critical moment, a system prompt suddenly appears, asking if she wants to paste the copied thread. Shock spreads across her face as something unexpected happens right before impact. A swarm of white threads suddenly erupts and wraps around the massive bear monster. The creature thrashes violently, confused and enraged as the threads tighten around its body. In moments, the bindings grow overwhelming, immobilizing the monster despite its desperate struggle. It's clear that an unexpected power, most likely Hanjuan's copied spider silk, has intervened and halted the beast's deadly charge. The giant bear monster is completely restrained by the spider silk binding. Seeing this, the others are shocked and amazed. One of them excitedly asks if Hanjun really subdued the monster using the same skill as the giant spider they fought earlier. Hanjun brushes it off casually, but the others continue praising him, calling him incredible and saying he saved their lives. Hanjun reminds them to stop overreacting, but they insist they truly trust him now. Hanjun admits he's a little drained because using the copied skill several times consumed more stamina than expected. Grunt suspected that Hanjun was part of the group, but he immediately denied it, saying he wasn't part of the group. Hanjun also didn't know where the group came from. It seems that they both don't believe Hanjun. Then young Hunter is seen showing them his hunter license. Good job from young Hunter. After that he gives them 2 potions. Hanjun explains that giving them the healing potions is actually an investment. He believes they'll repay him through their future achievements. He encourages them to drink without hesitation, smiling confidently. The others are stunned by his generosity. Before they can process everything, a massive monster begins to rise again, growling threateningly. Suddenly, aircraft appear overhead, signaling that reinforcements, or an even bigger development, have arrived. The group notices the aircraft approaching, thinking it means they're finally safe. But one of them warns it's actually bad news. Those big ships only appear when things are about to escalate. Right then, the massive monster shifts violently, preparing for its next transformation. Kang Ji-young shouts for everyone to stop firing because the creature is about to enter Phase 3, the point where it becomes drastically stronger and far more dangerous. With the arrival of support forces, the team prepares to push forward and deal with the remaining monsters. Someone asks when they can finally close the dungeon break. Suddenly, a new figure appears, blood-soaked, confident, and clearly powerful. He greets Hunter Kang Ji-young, saying it has been a while. A system window identifies him as Ku Ha-yun, a high-rank hunter and guild master. Kang Ji-young is shocked and demands to know why he's here. Ku Ha-yun casually answers, "Why not?" when asked why he's there, showing off a bloody, sinister smile. Kang Ji-young is shocked, realizing something is wrong. Ha-yun activates a powerful red magic circle, summoning or empowering a deadly creature. Ji-young panics and shouts at him to stop immediately, warning that using that magic won't kill the creature, implying it will only make the situation far worse. Ha-yun mocks the others, saying they must be scared of him. He claims this monster was originally meant to be his target, and now that it has appeared again, it's his chance. Determined to kill it himself and take all the loot, he unleashes a powerful spell called Dark Lightning. The monster reacts violently, and seeing the danger, Kang Jijong urgently shouts for everyone to fall back. Unleashes a violent, red-charged attack that instantly overruns the frontline fighters. Several hunters are struck down, unable to withstand its power. Then the monster fell. Hanjun barely dodges a deadly attack, cursing at how close it was. When he looks up, he sees the monster hurling vehicles into the air, but he confirms that both the trucks and the people are still safe. Just as he regains his focus, something unexpected approaches, catching his attention. Hanjun is shocked and confused as he observes the massive creature moving strangely beneath the ice. He wonders why it isn't responding and what's happening. Another hunter approaches, suggesting that the creature must be preparing to evolve. He realizes the other hunter is someone he's heard about before, a reckless individual rumored to have lost his mind after an incident in a dungeon. Ha-yun saw that there were hunters who survived. Hanjun replied that his priority now was to help hunters or residents. He casually walks toward the fallen creature, he prepares to strike it himself. Ha-yun unleashes a massive attack, instantly ripping the boss monster apart. Hanjun watches in shock, realizing that the hunter dealt the final blow and wondering what the consequences will be. Suddenly, a barrage of system notifications appears. He gains multiple level-ups all at once and receives the bounty reward for defeating the red-eyed Fang. Despite not landing the finishing strike himself, the system still credits him for the kill. Ha-yun is know that he's received all the level-ups and rewards despite not dealing the final blow. Ha-yun casually acknowledges it, saying he doesn't care about the rewards anyway. He even offers the monster's horn to Hanjun, saying he doesn't need it and that the kid can keep it. Someone calls out to him. Hunter Seo In arrives. Observing the situation, she confirms her suspicions about him, implying she had been watching and assessing his abilities. Ha-yun just found out that the two of them apparently already knew each other. Seo In checks on him, asking if something happened, but he brushes it off. She explains that the boss monster wasn't killed properly and that the emergency has escalated because the boss went into life phase. In this case, the boss completed its transformation, forcing the situation to escalate into multiple phases. Explains that a final boss like Euroshia has massive mana reserves and uses both berserk and rage attacks, so hunters divide the battle into phases. In phase 3, the boss feels threatened and unleashes a full-scale destructive attack on everything around it. Euroshia is now in this phase, gathering all its mana while also shielding itself with a barrier. During this period, neither physical nor magical attacks can affect it, making the boss temporarily untouchable as it prepares for its next overwhelming move. The boss awakens earlier than expected, and Ku Ha-yun excitedly charges in, wanting to kill it first and claim all the loot. The boss releases a massive, blinding attack. Kang Ji-young is warned him who says she trusts he'll survive this one too. Ku Ha-yun mocks him, saying survival will be difficult and they shouldn't blame him if people die. After all, high-level hunter deaths in dungeons are more common than car accidents. They both immediately went towards the monster to prepare to fight, then Hanjun insists he can't lose now and that he'll show everyone exactly what he's capable of. Hanjun immediately untied them, and they were all safe. He explained that the Keisha monster had entered phase 3 and was extremely dangerous. Therefore, he needed the Kaligia dragon sword to kill the Keisha monster. Hanjun promises Erez and Grunt that he'll return the Calcia dragon's longsword after defeating the monster. Grunt hesitates, frustrated that a newcomer keeps making requests. She told him that to unseal the sword it would take a lot of mana. He was shocked to hear this statement from Erez. They don't need to worry about mana, because Hanjun has mana regeneration skills to channel. Alex immediately took out her skills to break seal on the trailer. Hanjun immediately rushes forward. Grunt didn't know why Erez believed the man. she answered that being saved by him was enough. Meanwhile, Hanjun reaches the trailer and opens it, finally obtaining the Calcia dragon's longsword, something he had been aiming for all along. A hooded enemy suddenly appears behind him, catching him completely off guard. A hooded assassin ambushes Hanjun, stabbing him before he can react. His teammates yell out in shock, realizing the attacker intends to steal the Calcia dragon's longsword for himself. The assassin grabs the sword from the trailer, declaring that he's finally secured what he came for, before attempting to escape with it. A system message warns that the giant spider web deactivates upon the user's death. The truck falls into the sea, along with them. A system message announces, receiving copied content, and the protagonist feels power surging into him as the awakened sword transfers its abilities. He remarks that he hadn't expected to obtain the awakened sword in such a dramatic way. However, he's suddenly stabbed from behind by the hooded assassin. Despite the surprise attack, he stays calm, stating that it doesn't matter if he's stabbed because, when someone stabs me, I stab back. Hanjun finally lands a hit on the assassin and declares that he saved the Calcian dragon's longsword for himself. With excitement, he draws the sword as it radiates dark power. A system prompt appears, "Would you like to copy the Calcian dragon's legendary item?" He answers, "Absolutely," and the copying process begins. But suddenly, something goes wrong. The progress bar stops, alarms flash red, and he realizes with shock. "You've got to be kidding me." The copying attempt has clearly hit an unexpected problem. Hanjun told he can't copy the Calcian dragon's legendary weapon. A sudden attack from behind forces him to dodge, barely avoiding death. He realizes the assassin is still after him and targeting him persistently. The assassin ambushes him, cutting his arm and knocking him to the ground. As the protagonist struggles, the assassin mocks him, saying he didn't think the protagonist would be this skilled, but it doesn't matter. Charging up deadly magic, the assassin declares, "Let me return your meaningless efforts." He prepares a lethal attack aimed directly at Hanjun. The assassin prepares his killing move, declaring that he will slice through the Hanjun mind, body, and soul to end him at his weakest moment. He strikes, stabbing Hanjun. Blood bursts out. He reels in pain but quickly realizes something important: the Calcian dragon longsword he's carrying is reacting to the attack. A system message appears, revealing that the Calcian dragon longsword is fusing with its wielder. He has met the requirements to unlock the sword's true potential. The deadly blow unexpectedly triggers the longsword's awakening. One by one, the system confirms that he has copied and absorbed all three skills and traits of the Calcian dragon longsword: its regeneration, mana conversion, preservation, and regeneration again. A final message appears. He has successfully absorbed all skills of the Calcian dragon longsword. His HP has fallen below 25%. Because of this, the longsword's self-harm damage is reduced and converted into mana regeneration, making it more efficient. Then another alert. The Calcian dragon longsword begins a full regeneration of all its absorbed skills. As this overwhelming process begins, the protagonist screams in agony as bright red energy surges around. Calcia dragon begins unleashing a massive, concentrated attack, its power surging to a dangerous level. Seeing this, that the situation has taken a turn for the worse. In response, they quickly charges forward, preparing to intercept or counter the incoming attack with determination. The Calcia dragon releases a massive blast of energy from its mouth, firing it straight downward. The attack explodes with overwhelming force, shaking the entire area and engulfing everything in a blinding flash. A sudden, powerful beam of light strikes the dragon mid-attack. The blast tears through its body, shocking the creature and violently ripping apart the surrounding structures as the impact continues downward. They were both very surprised. The massive light attack obliterates Calcia, and the system immediately announces the boss's defeat. With the creature dead, a final notification appears: the dungeon has been cleared.